Fillipe, we finally done it. We finally done it, bro.
We made it through.
It's me, the journey from Birmingham.
Listen,
respect you for coming.
I appreciate you having me, man. Appreciate it.
We're going to chop it up.
Yeah.
You know what? The funny thing about it is, I know a bit of your story as well.
Yeah.
But I don't know much about your journey from when you're young and everything. So we're going to do all that, chop all that up.
Nice.
But welcome to Keeping It Real for Christ.
Yep.
Thanks for coming.
Shout out to everyone out there watching.
That's it.
Big up.
And so introduce yourself. Who is Fillipe? So the viewers can know who you are.
Yeah, so who is Fillipe? That's a broad question. But I'm Fillipe. I'm a Portuguese guy, kind of. But
you say your full Portuguese.
Fillipe. If I say my full name is João Fillipe da Conceição Monte Gomes, and it's it's a Portuguese name. I'm born and bred in Portugal. I actually was raised in Portugal, so I lived there from when I was birth to 12 years old.
Okay.
And a lot happened there. So like what you're talking about, you don't know what happened there. So that's where things really initiated. But it's been nice. Like I think it's my life in an overview has been like, young, kind of in the middle of nowhere, not really knowing what's going on, struggling with identity, coming to the UK, figuring out life, like getting some advice from guys like you, Pastor Talks and that kind of stuff, like people that just helped me along the way. And then, finally starting to figure things out, in these later years. So it's been like a bit of a madness, but that's in a nutshell. Yeah, like it's, a bit of everything. Like I think it's, when you look at my life, it's quite
mixed up with all sorts of difference. All right, well, let's start from when you were born to 12 years old. So whereabouts in Portugal did you live? Yeah,
so I was born in South Lisbon, so like capital. Nicest place you can ever be. Yeah, I'm telling you now, you only go down south, but you need to go Lisbon.
Yeah.
But so it was nice. So like I lived in an area that wasn't actually too rough initially. It was it's South Lisbon, it was Almada. And that area is actually, it's a decent area. My dad and my mum lived together. I was the last one. I'm the last of my siblings, so there's 6 of us in total.
Uh-huh.
I was the last one. At that point, things were still okay with my family unit.
Right.
Yeah, as far as I know. My mum and dad had a business going on. There were some things that were going well.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's like from like 0 to 2 or 3-ish. That's that time span where my family unit was there. When I think about my dad in those time periods, I only had like vague pictures and vague moments of remembering my mum beating the yam, like they're making like some fufu and stuff like that, that kind of stuff. So like I have those vivid pictures of my early childhood. Mad one. Yeah, like something that happened when I was around that age group. Like my mum went out, and this is how I know, that the protection was there. My mum went out, and the door closed behind her. So we used to live in a massive flats, massive flats at one point.
Mm-hmm.
So we must have been on like 10th, 8th floor, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And she went out, the door closed. I was left but close to the window as a baby. Yeah, and I actually I looked outside, saw my siblings playing downstairs. And I dove, dove. I don't know if that's a word. Is that a word?
Yeah.
So I went head first.
Wow.
Out of the window. Luckily, clove hangers. The hangers that you have outside.
Yeah.
Caught the nappy, and I was hanging by my nappy
for
a bit. So then one of my uncles, slammed the door because he had to break the door. My mom started panicking. He broke the door down, and
really?
They pulled me out. Yeah. So just right at the start,
there could have been no Fillipe right
now.
now.
Literally 2 seconds.
Wow.
Like the fact that the nappy got caught on the cloak. You think about clothes hangers, like those things are usually very flimsy, but my nappy got caught enough for me to not go all the way down. So that was a blessing, man. But things like that happen a lot to me between that time period. Even like if you see that scar that I've got there, initially that happened because like I was in the elevator, dropped my toy down the side of these old time elevators, and I kind of just put my whole arm in there. And if my sister hadn't pulled me in time, I would have just
gone off.
All of it would have been done. So these kind of things happen a lot, man. 0 to 2. So it was quite interesting. But then, I think my family had when I was born, my grandmother died, so that affected my mum quite negatively.
Mm-hmm.
I was probably the only one that didn't meet any of my grandparents.
Why is that?
because they died like when I was born.
Oh, you didn't meet them?
Yeah, I didn't meet them.
So the rest of your siblings met. Okay,
but like all of them did, but me. I think so. It's almost like I was the child that brought him up, because my grandmother died when I was born, like shortly after I was born. So I think she still held me, but this is maybe when I was, tiny. But that messed my mum up. But what that meant was it caused a bit of separation with my mum straight at the beginning, because she went to Angola for the funeral and stuff like that, and I was left with family members for like almost a year.
Where was your dad then?
He was still around, so I was there with him, but he would have been my auntie and my dad and that kind of stuff. But he stayed because we had like too many people to take over. So, but she was away for a bit, and I think from then, like the separation kind of thing began to happen. And then when I was 2, my dad kind of, there was a massive business deal that they were doing. He kind of went to Angola. The business fell through, and then he just never came back.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So.
Was your mom back then?
Yeah, she was back by then. So now I'm fast forwarding again, like to like 2, 3. So like he went, stayed there, never came back. Mum, tried to figure things out. She's now got 6 kids to handle. She's still in contact, but it's not happening. He's not going to come back, kind of thing. So now she has to figure out. She spirals. Starts drinking heavily. All of her sisters are living with us, so there's like just a lot of confusion. The sisters, like not all of them are married. They've got kids and stuff like that. They've got broken down marriages as well. All of that kind of stuff is happening. That's the kind of
same flat.
Yeah, like we no longer in the flat at that point. We moved to like we had like a house. I call it the yellow house because it was a yellow house near the beach. We stayed there for a bit, and we moved a lot around that period of time. So there was no set place. We were like between places, like every few months. So but things started to spiral, get really negative. She started drinking a lot, and it got to a point where, she's living under a bridge with kids.
Really?
Just not working. Like
under a bridge.
Yeah, like wow. But not like a permanent thing. Like it was for a season kind of thing. But it's just that's how bad it got. But she kind of, she realized she couldn't look after us. So because we had a lot of family from my dad's side, because my dad's side, his mum was Portuguese. She was Portuguese white, and his dad was Angolan. Black. So
that was like mixed race.
Yeah, he was mixed. So his side are all in Portugal. Right. So we got loads of uncles, cousins, and everything like dotted around Portugal. Families that are doing very well off, because like that's the family. Yeah. But then obviously the situation happens with my mum. She then seeks out help from my uncles.
On your dad's side.
All on my dad's side. So like I end up going to my my uncle, which raised me. And then my sisters go to other uncles. Like, so I'm talking about, it's like, I don't know if you remember this show, Dragon Ball, like when the Dragon Balls go all over, like literally the family went, everyone in their own. So we were all with different parts of the family. And that's like around the age of 3. So,
wow. Do you remember the feeling of it then? Just being separated from your siblings, or?
No, in honesty, like I don't remember. My family says I was quite racist as a little kid. So like every time like I would go to visit them, I'll be like, bye blacks, and just and then go like I was like, is that me? I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry.
Because you thought you were what?
I don't know what I thought. I used to so I guess this is where the identity thing began. Because I'm living with a white family. Like my uncle is white, my cousins are white, my neighborhood is white. I think
you showed me a picture of him as well.
Yeah, I showed you in it. So like everything is white around me, and I know I'm not white. So and then I'm like, I'm brown. I'm not black. That was my thing as a kid. So like, yeah. And I think that was probably the start of it, because there was not really any black people where I lived where I went to live. So like from 3 to 5 or 3 to 6 even.
Wow.
There was maybe one black guy, but my uncle, he was a market man. He worked in the markets in Portugal.
So well-known kind of thing around the town.
Yeah, like back then, like in Portugal, it's quite a big thing. And then back then it was even more it was a top job. Like you pay very well. He done very well from it, but it was that kind of environment. So even being in the markets, there's no black people there. It's all like white people, white Portuguese.
What was that like for you then?
Trainers. Yeah, honestly, like initially, like I didn't notice these things. I just kind of I began to say these things naturally. But I noticed I was different. I knew that I was a bit different, but it never bothered me in the first few years. So like 3 to 6, maybe 7. I kind of just enjoyed being around those people because actually there was no issues. You know what I mean? Like the family's function, the family was good. You know, we're in the market, we working. I learned to work hard from him, that kind of stuff. So like we would be up from 5 a.m. going to the market, and then we'd come back at like 6, 7 p.m. You know, all day on the market stalls selling and that kind of stuff. So that kind of environment helped me to just like feel like I was part of it. You know, my cousins, they loved me, and I feel like, you know, we had really great relationships initially. And yeah, so like actually going to visit my mum and stuff like that wasn't something I looked forward to.
Really?
Just because, you know, every time I stayed with them, you know, very poor.
Reminded you of the poverty.
Very, very poor. You know, like we sleeping all in the same, like, because there's only one that I can remember, which is like a flat. They lived in the basement, one floor underneath the main floor. So I don't know, basement floor, I think. And they had a window like at the top. And that window was a window for outside. But I just remember going in there and I just felt like, you know, it was just sardines, you know what I mean? Like everyone's clamped, like it just smells awkward, it smells odd, that kind of stuff. Like it just felt poor, you know? And I think as a kid, seeing how my uncle lived and then seeing how my mum lived and the issues around that, I kind of just wanted to disconnect from that completely. And yeah, so I didn't really have a great relationship with my siblings because I just didn't know them very well.
Wow.
Because I was disconnected from them like 2, 3. So by being disconnected, by now I'm talking about 6 years old, I don't really have that relationship with them. I know of them, but there's not really a relationship. But even though, like, sometimes I speak to my sister now and she talks about how she used to carry me everywhere and that kind of stuff, and I'm like, I don't have any like memory of that. Yeah, nothing. So
did you start going to school at that time as well?
Yeah, so like in Portugal, like you start preschool around 5, and then primary school year 1 on around 6.
You're literally mixing with all sorts of different types of people then.
Well,
not your color.
Yeah.
So how was that for you then?
That was different. Like it was because this is now when I started to notice these things, because I went to school and I'm like, there was one other black kid that we were very close. We became very close. Probably because, you know, we felt like we could relate. But then, so I had a good relationship with him because I think naturally he was drawn to me because he was from an Angolan family.
Really?
And,
wow.
And I was drawn to him because I felt like, we match. Yeah, like, you know what I mean? And the other kids, we didn't match and stuff like that. But then, like, I think because we were good friends and stuff like that, we were very confident kids, you know what I mean? So we actually had great confidence. We didn't...
Interesting.
Like, we didn't struggle with, like, for example, down to the point, like, if something happened, for example, where you get in an argument with a popular kid, that wouldn't do anything to me. Like, I'll just be like, cool, I'll move on, go grab something and start playing with something else. And then people would be drawn to, like, that kind of stuff. So, like, people would then come and gather around.
Really?
And I would have friends. It was just, despite what people were doing, I still had people. So then I kind of grew up around that, just being confident and being able to just chat to people, and just always having friends around me. There was moments probably where I felt isolated, you know, maybe if I think about it, like when I'm talking about going to school now in primary school, my uncle maybe dropped me the first few times, and then after that it's like I got market to go to, which meant that 6 years old I'm going to school.
Wow.
Like, you know, I'm walking, I think it was like 20-30 minutes to school.
Really?
Like, yeah.
Wow.
So and then I'm coming back home and I'm at home by myself until my...
Did you have an auntie there, or?
Yeah, my auntie was also in the market as well.
And your uncle didn't have any kids, or?
No, they had my cousins.
Right.
But then, like, so my auntie and uncle were both in the market. Whereas the cousins, they were at home. But then, you know, they would come back later. And I lasted for a few years, but then they went off to uni as well. So, because they were much older than me, they weren't around the same age as me. So right. I think the boy, he was 10 years older than me.
Okay.
So when I went to school, he was about to go college kind of thing. So he's coming back a lot later. He's, you know, that kind of stuff. So I was isolated at home a little bit, like, because whenever I wasn't in the market, I would be at home on my own. And I think that was maybe challenging to the point where I just kind of just started spending time outside all the time, that kind of thing. So, but then like, it was one of those things, my auntie was actually very religious. So like, she used to take us to Catholic church, like the Catholic church. Every Sunday we'd go. And
how was that for you then?
Yeah, like I enjoyed it, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah, I think initially I enjoyed it up until like the older years. I enjoyed it because it was something that I could go to, and I knew a few people. Some of my friends from school were there, and I kind of just helped to then have relationships with people. You know, when you live in a village, well, it's not a village, but like where we lived, Feju's been there. It's like everyone there knows each other, right? Really. In that road,
like a community.
Yeah, it was a community. Like I could go down to the cafe, they'd be like, "How's your uncle?" They'd be like, "Give him this, tell him I said blah blah blah." That kind of stuff. Like it was very knit together. So even though I'm growing up in school, like in primary school, I'm going there by myself. I'm having a few challenges, you know, with some of the popular kids, because they don't like that their popularity is being challenged. So that kind of stuff caused a few frictions. But then otherwise, I was always social and having conversations. Same thing in church. I'm having conversations with people. Like I'm always playing. I was always out on the street playing, because then we got to a point where I was like, there's no point being at home because I'm just there by myself. So I was always out as late as I could be. I'd be out and then I'd be back home.
Wow. As
soon as in Portugal, it's like when the sun starts to go down, you need to be back.
Yeah.
Or a specific time. So that's literally the environment like that I grew up in. Like it was just, my uncle is working very hard and my auntie. My cousins are studying and I'm going to school myself. I've got a few friends, a few people that I connect with, a few challenges, got into, I've been fighting since I was a kid, man. I was always getting into fights. Like that's probably where I get, like you used to say I was a hothead in certain aspects. That's probably where it comes from, because like in Portugal,
you have to defend yourself, kind of thing.
A lot,
right?
And like you'll see when I talk about secondary school, you'll see that it's even more. Like it was in Portugal. It's not like here. When I came to the UK, the first time someone came up, I actually hit them because I thought that was it. Like in Portugal, if someone comes up to you, that's it. Let's start fighting. Back then, anyway, if someone came up to me that way, that means that we're fighting, not like we arguing and that kind of stuff. So then when that happened here, I was like, that's odd, man. What was going on? And then I found out
they're talking.
Yeah, like how they're like, I was like, I didn't know that was a thing, but that's like a thing here in the UK. But in Portugal, it wasn't like that. Like, do you know what I mean? Back then, it was like if someone came up to you, that's it. Like wow. I knew I would have to get into a fight.
So you had like a mixture of two lives, really. So holidays, did you go to your mom's?
Not every holiday. It would be like for a bit. I wouldn't be there for long. Or maybe, I don't know if it's a lapse in my mind, but I don't remember being there for like a long time. It would be like a week or something like that. And I would just be looking forward to just going back.
Wow. So you sound like you had a really good childhood after you went to your uncle's then.
Yeah. My uncle actually, I think, back then I didn't understand it. But looking back now, I think he done like, they loved me, they fed me, they gave me loads of things. Like they gave me gifts, they took me everywhere, holidays, he had like a holiday home. So every summer holiday, we were going to this holiday home by the beach. So it's that kind of growing up, like I never lacked anything with him, like ever. I never lacked anything. Whereas whenever I kind of went to my mum's side, all I saw was lack, and I kind of just didn't want anything to do with that.
And from that time, you never heard from your dad?
Yeah, I didn't hear from him, and I do have a memory of like once me and my cousin, we went to get chicken. Like, 'cause like they do the grilled chicken.
Yeah.
So we went to get chicken. And then we coming back, I get inside the house, we open the door, I look to my left, my uncle, my mum, a guy that at that time I kind of was trying to like just read the room because there was loads of people sat in the thing, and I was like, what's going on there? So I looked, read the room, and I kind of just grabbed the bag and just went to the kitchen because the kitchen was straight ahead. So I just went into the kitchen, didn't say nothing. And then I stood there, and then my cousin came to me, she's like, you okay? Like, it's like, you see, I was like, do you know what that is? I was like, yeah, I think it's my dad. And I somehow I knew it was him, but not because I recognized his face or anything like that.
The feeling that just came from you.
Yeah. And I think it was maybe because I read the room. Like, as a kid, I think I was a bit emotionally smart to just understand what was going on.
Emotionally aware of what you said. Right.
So then I went back in there. They made me sit in his lap. I just felt awkward. I was like, why am I sitting in this guy's lap? Because I didn't know this guy. Like, for me, I was like, this is a stranger. Like, it's not someone that I'm familiar with, So, and I kind of just you know, that happened. My mum started crying, you know, he's there and that kind of stuff. My uncle had arguments with them because he was like, he wanted them to fix it, you know, to sort out their situation, but they just weren't figuring it out. So it kind of just, for me, I was like, I don't want anything to do with that for many years. Yeah, many.
How old were you then when you turned up to your house?
I would have been around 7, 8-ish. Like I think, like I would have been around that age group where I'd have been in year 3 or 4 in the primary. Was it? No, actually, no, a bit younger. Yeah, maybe 7. I think it was about 7 because I was old enough to sit on his lap. So I think that's
Wow. So then what happened?
Yeah, no. So like after that, he kind of just went, and I never saw him again. Yeah,
really?
Like I think that was the last time that I can remember seeing him. I don't think I've seen him since. So
that was it.
That was it. Yeah, I don't know what he went and done. I don't know if he went back to Angola after that or what happened between him and my mom. I never really asked, to be fair. But that was the last of him, like, you know.
And do you remember the feeling you had then, besides the fact that he was a dad and it's awkward and all that? Do you remember thinking, does he want to come back in my life or what is it?
No, I to be honest, like, honestly, he was a stranger to me. Like, I knew he was my dad, but he was a stranger. Like, I've never felt any, like, connection with him, you know, and it saddens me that even to this day, it saddens me, but, like, I've actually never felt a connection. My uncle, for me, was my dad because he was the one that raised me. He was the one that was always there. He was the one that taught me how to ride a bike. He's the one that taught me how to do everything. You know what I mean? Like, him and my auntie, they were the ones that raised me, you know, like in those initial years up until I was 12. That I stayed with them for 10 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah, because obviously, so from primary school, I now go to secondary school. It's a whole different ball game, as you understand. Like, secondary schools are serious. But now I'm dealing with things like racism. Like, it's a big thing.
Was it still in Portugal?
Yeah, in Portugal, this is.
Oh, so you started your secondary in Portugal?
Yeah.
Right.
Which was, it didn't, like, the reason why it didn't start great for me was also because my good friend, the other black kid, he failed his year. So he stayed. Yeah, he had to repeat.
Yeah.
So he stayed in primary and I went on by myself. And that was really hard. Like, because then I kind of, pardon me, I lost my best friend. And now I'm like, you know, I still had other good friends, but he was my best friend. Like, he was the one I hung around with all the time, kind of thing. And so that was difficult. But then, like, I very quickly, I kind of just started making new friends. Some good, some not so good.
In the midst of all that racism and all that.
There was some good eggs. Even the racist guys, like, some of them were actually decent people sometimes. But, like, I think there was a problem with jealousy, like, you know, because I could do sports, I could run around. I was a bit of a funny kid, making jokes, that kind of stuff. And, you know, it was challenging because in Portugal, you can fail for the rest of your life. You can fail back then. So I was coming into a year where there was kids that had failed for like 2 years.
Wow.
So they were much older than me. Like, they were bigger because they're now, like, they've already broken through, you know, the puberty stuff, like, they, like, more developed. There was one that stayed there for so many years, man. That guy was big, you know, like. But, like, obviously now I'm now being faced with not just being able to defend myself the same way, because the fights now were like, you know, these guys are strong.
Real.
Yeah, so, like, it was harder to fight. But then, because I saw, okay, I'll fight. I'd still fight and get beaten up sometimes. But I would just fight because I was like, I'm not having it. Like, you know, sometimes calling me monkey, gorilla, whatever. Like, I'll be playing football. If I kill someone, they'll trip me. Because I used to be, like, playing football for a club then. They would trip me up, like, and on purpose, that kind of stuff. Like, and I would lose it with that kind of stuff. Like, anytime I felt like they were, like, taking advantage, I would just instantly fight. I wouldn't ask a question. I would literally straight away go up to them, start a fight. And because that's why I got used to it. Even though sometimes I actually chilled with those guys, which is odd, you know. I think, but it's just like in Portugal, you fight and then you get over it.
Yeah,
you move
just
on.
Respect each other after that.
You know, but he carried on. So every time they lost or every time they felt under, they would then, like, do that kind of stuff, like, and now then get into a fight. Remember once there was one guy that I actually considered a friend, but he decided to fight me because, you know, something stupid. So I fought him. And I lost it, man, because I used to see red. Like, it was to a point where I'd see red, tears would start flowing, and I would just fight. Friend or foe, I didn't care. Like, if you were near me at that point, I would fight you. And that was it. And I fought one of my friends. Like, I remember, and his sister came, And we were just chilling, so his sister came a few days later, but me and him were like chilling. We were like walking up and down the thing. We just cracking joke. And she's like, "Who do you think you are, chilling with my brother?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" For me, I had forgotten. Like, I was like, "Well, I fight so much in school, I actually don't remember." Like, I was like, "What are you talking about?" But like, because I left him some bruises in his back. But like, I was like, we fight, like, and we get over it. You know what I mean? Like, I fought him, yeah, but we moved on. But like, she couldn't understand that. But we were cool. But that's how it was growing up in school. It was literally fights. And then I started to struggle with my identity, like just feeling like I don't really belong here, you know, like, and I was around those years that I began to feel like I don't belong here. That's when I think it began to be challenging even everywhere. Because now my cousins had gone to uni. So I was literally at home all the time by myself. And then I'm traveling across town to get to school. So that is far. The secondary school was far because I lived in a remote place. So the school was far.
So were you in boarding school?
No, it wasn't boarding school. It was just like a secondary school, public school.
But you used to just travel far?
It was far because it was like, where I was, there was only a primary school. There was no secondary school there.
Wow.
So I had to get on the bus. The bus would be like an hour, you know, to get there. So it was far, man. Like, and then, so all of that, I think, began to just play at it. And I just my identity thing just started to play out because I was like, I don't belong here. And I started to just think about my family a bit more. And I remember, like, my brother, he would sometimes come and visit as well. Like, so my older brother and my sisters would come and visit as well. I don't remember all of the times, but like, my family would try and come and see me. I remember actually, they brought me a gift on one of my birthdays. They brought me a Dreamcast, you know, and it became my favorite console ever. My brother was like, this is what you need to do. But my brother, like, what I didn't know is my brother was like involved in, like, you know, violence, gangs and stuff like that.
Really?
Like, he was doing all of that on that side. And then I began to find out some of these things through my uncle, through, you know, and then I almost felt like that's what I needed to be, but then not fully, because I wasn't committed to it. I wasn't thinking that's what I needed to do. But because I knew that, like, there was other confrontations I had in school, I was like, listen, don't get me to bring my brother around there. I started to use my brother as a... Because I was like, listen, I'm done dealing with you old guys, dumb guys that have failed years upon years, and I'm trying to,
the real OG.
Like, if you want to fight someone your age, I'll get someone your age. That's what I was thinking. Because I was like, why am I fighting like 15-year-olds and I'm like 10? Like, it makes no sense. You know what I mean? It was just getting long, man. Like, and I was getting tired of fighting. But then, like, I actually just began to be witty about it as well. Like I remember playing basketball. One of the guys tried to be racist about it, and I just grabbed my basketball and I was like, "You're not playing." And then everyone sided with me, and like everyone was there. Like we just stopped playing.
Wow.
And he tried to take the ball from me. I was like, "Cool, take the ball." But no one played. I don't know why they followed me at that point, but no one played. Like, the guy was like, and he got vexed. He booted the ball. I was like, "Cool." And then he walked away. We went and got the ball, and we carried on playing.
Wow.
And like that's the kind of stuff I started to do just to exclude them. I was like, listen, if you're gonna be dumb about it, you're gonna be excluded.
See, it's almost like you started taking control back off.
Yeah, in some way, like, because I couldn't win. Like, I was fighting big guys, you know, like they were older than me, like, and I couldn't win. Like, fighting people my age was one thing, and I was okay with that. But then fighting guys like this, like, I was fighting them, and I was, you know, trying to punch them and stuff like that. But I was getting punched up, man. And it was one of those things that, like, okay, cool, I'm defending myself, I'm fighting, but I don't want to keep. It was tiring, you know what I mean? Like, it was something. God. And it got a bit long, man. But then, like, I think alongside that, I did build some good relationships with some people that I really just felt like I connected with. We used to hang around. We used to go explore. Sometimes we'd walk for hours, get lost, and somehow find our way back. You know, my uncle was telling Fedji stories of times that I hid in the gutter because I got wet, and the whole town was searching for me, like that kind of stuff. Like, it was. We used to go explore because I made some good connections alongside that. And I think that's why then I struggled, because part of me didn't want to be there, and then part of me had really good friends that I spent time with. So I just struggled with my identity. And
part of you was starting to admire your brother. It was what he's doing.
Yeah, like what I heard from him. Like, because I didn't see it, you know. Every time I go and see him, he would be with his friends and stuff like that. Like, and he had that kind of, he could draw really well as well. I used to ask him, have you seen his art? Yeah. So I used to ask him for drawing. So, like, he was someone that I kind of just, like, I was looking and
this is proper drawing. Far. This is not like his level is world class.
But imagine this is now. He was doing this back then, so I would have been like about 10. He would have been maybe 14 or so, and he was doing like, if you think about the drawings from cartoons back in the day, he was doing serious drawings. Like, so much so that if he didn't do it, I'll be crying. Like, I'm like, do that drawing, like that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was legit, man. But that's where the tug of war started for me. So
then what happened after 12? Now because you talked about moving to England.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so like sadly I ran away eventually from my uncle.
From your uncle's place?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
He didn't want me to go. My mom came to the UK because she got saved now. So like alongside this, everything is happening. Saved? Yeah.
Wow.
So she got saved. She began to make some better choices, and then she found out that there was like opportunities there for support in the UK. So her and my siblings were already living with my mum at this point as well. They kind of journeyed through France to the UK. They came to live in the UK.
Really?
So, but she had gotten saved. So like her addiction, her alcohol addiction, and everything like that. She got.
And how did that happen? How did?
Someone approached her. Like I know the story a little bit, but someone told her about Jesus and that kind of thing, and she then like accepted Jesus, got saved, went to church and that kind of stuff, and things began to change. I think she just made the decision to like, I'm gonna make things work, and she just tried something different. Because I think one of my family members, her sister had come to the UK and it worked. They were starting to get things together, so she thought, okay, I'm gonna do the same thing. But then when she did that, all of us were meant to go. But because I at this point now, I'm a bit older. I'm in contact with my mum every now and then. I started calling her more often.
How old are you then?
Like around the 10ish to 12 mark. I just started calling her. Like I'm like probably like 11 to 12. Yeah. I started calling her more often, and I was starting to get fed up with being there. And I remember there was something that my uncle said, and this was probably like, some people are like, nah, look at this guy, but it really struck with me. And I think that's when I was like, I'm done being here kind of thing. Because I asked him, like, he had a nice BMW 3 Series. And I was like, when you die, is that going to be my inheritance? Like, can I keep the car kind of thing? Right. And he said like, oh, no, like my stuff is for my kids, like, but he said it in a jokey way kind of thing. But that for me as a kid, that was like, this is not, that's when I realized, I was like, this is not me. This is not this is not my family kind of thing. And I think I started having a longing for my family at that point. And I really started calling my mum. I was getting into fights a lot in school, so I was getting into trouble. And then like my uncle sometimes would discipline me because of that, and he was just like, I would be on the phone to my mum saying, nah, he beat me, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. My mum is hearing this and she's thinking the worst things are happening. And I was being manipulative as a kid, and I was saying, I just wanted to go. Yeah. And then, so eventually they kind of organized an escape. And then kind of like
So what do you mean?
Yeah, my sister. So my sister, second older sister, came to meet me in the school in the morning, took me to an airplane, set me on the plane to England. And
Serious?
Yeah, that was it.
At 12 years old?
At 12, I literally was the day after my birthday. Like, so 20, and like the birthday I was celebrating was the 25th of March. On the 26th, I left.
What?
So
that must have crushed your uncle.
Yeah, it broke them. Like, and it was actually like, it was, for me, it was hard. What was heartbreaking there was, and I think maybe what that might have meant to him now, I can consider that. But when I was already in the UK, border control, because like the guys that sat next to me, this African couple, they stole my IDs.
What?
So like when I got off the plane, I had no boarding pass, I had no ID, I had nothing. Yeah, and I didn't realize until I got to the thing, and I was like, oh crap! And I went back to the airplane, and I was like, nothing there.
What do you mean they stole it?
Because I had put it, because they gave me like a pouch as a kid. I didn't have a cyst, so I just put it in front of me, and I sat there throughout the flight. And then when it came time to go, I just went, and then I was like, oh snap! I left my stuff, and when we came back, that stuff was gone. So no ID, nothing. And because of that, the border control had to call the emergency contacts, and they called my uncle.
Oh.
Like they put the phone on the phone to me. I just heard him, like, he said my name. He's like, because he used to call me Juga. And he was like, Juga, what's going on? I was like, oh my days, the fear in me. I was like, brother, I still remember the fear. I literally was like, I couldn't believe that he would. I'm now in the UK and he's on the phone. They called him and I was like, and I looked at the guy and he's like, I was like, no, listen, I gave him the phone. I couldn't say a single word.
And where was your sister then?
Oh, my sister, she wasn't, because she only put me on the plane and thing. Yeah, because she stayed in Portugal.
Wow.
So
you got on the plane at 12 and just...
Yeah, jeez, man. Like, honestly, that thing there was an experience. Because obviously now I've got no idea. They say they're going to send me back to my uncle. So I'm thinking, yo, I'm going to get mashed up. When I get back, they're going to destroy me. Like, that's what I was thinking. Like, wrong mindset, obviously. But I was thinking he's going to ban me up. Because he didn't want me to go. Like, he said, like, he had an argument with my mom and that kind of stuff. He's like, these guys are useless. They blah, blah, blah. That kind of stuff. Like, he used to say that quite vocally. But then... yeah, so I was thinking, yo, if I go back, I'm gonna get battered up, you know. But eventually, they kind of, border controlled on a few things. My mum and my sister were on the other side. I didn't know, but they were throwing themselves on the floor, crying like, because they heard what was going on. Oh my days! So they're throwing themselves. They're making a scene
at the airport.
Yeah, like I'm on the other side, so I don't see any of this. And then eventually, they bring me together with my mum, and there's like some people just there around us, and they kind of say. What was the question? Like, they start asking questions in English, speaking to my mum. But we didn't know there was a Portuguese guy there. But he didn't say he was Portuguese. But he was just listening. He was like speaking in English, but he was just listening to the conversation. So I'm speaking to my mum. I'm like, I lost my passport. I don't know. I can't go back, that kind of stuff. And then we all crying at this point. Like, it's a scene. He's doing a madness. And then he kind of goes away. And then, like, I remember just like at one point, the guy's coming back. And as a kid, it's like, I look at him as he's coming back and I said to my mum, everything's going to be okay. I just said that out of nowhere. And she stopped, like, they stopped crying and everything like that. The guy comes back and then he explains, I'm actually Portuguese. He starts speaking to us in Portuguese.
Really?
When he's saying I was listening there, I was like, yo, like, so that he was paying attention to see if it was fraud or if it was fake, if it was genuine family.
Something could be anything.
So, yeah, they signed the papers, picture. I'm through. I'm in the UK, man, and I'm here. I'm on the bus back, seeing the UK for the first time, coming from Heathrow Airport. I was like, everything looks the same, like brick. I'm seeing the UK for the first time. It's cold. It was like in March, innit? So it was a bit cold still.
That's different from Portugal.
Arriving at my mum's flat, and that was it. That was a complete change there. Just a dramatic, no peace. Just like everything.
And all your siblings join you there as well?
Yeah, so all my siblings were already there, apart from the one that stayed in Portugal. So everyone. So when I arrive at this house now, there's my older sister and her son. There's my third oldest sister and her son. So the sons are like, one would be 4 or 3, and one would be 1 or like just a few months old. There's my, what was it? Oh, actually, I don't even know. Was he alive then? I might be confusing it, but I think he was there. But anyway, there was my sister, my younger sister, and my brother, and my mum, and then me. So that there's 8 of us in the house.
This flat.
Yeah. I'm talking about a tiny flat, like 2-bed flat, where the main bedrooms are for the mums with the kids, and then the 2 bedrooms are for mums and kids, and then the rest of us are living in the floor in the living room.
Wow.
That was it. So,
and then what happened? So did you enroll in school? What did you do?
Yeah, so like I came, that was in March. Honestly, I hated it.
Did you speak any English then?
Nothing.
Like
apart from like, hello, my name is, that kind of thing. Like I still had shuka, that kind of stuff. So like, I didn't have anything beyond that. But like, the mad thing was like, so like I came and I was there with my family. I hated it. I'm talking about I hated it because it was just poverty to a max. Like I didn't expect that kind of poverty. Like I'm talking about things like a burger, the burgers that you just niced us with, that would have to be split 4 ways.
Wow.
But initially, when I first came, my mom would give me half, right? And my siblings would then have to break it, kind of thing. So that caused a lot of friction between me and my siblings because they were like, you babying him, because they experienced some of the a lot more
like in Portugal.
Yeah, like the whole thing of even like living in the I didn't get that understanding. Do you know what I mean? Like they went through that proper, whereas me was a passing thing. For them, it's like they went through it. You know what I mean? Like living with an alcoholic in Portugal, that kind of stuff. They went through the thick of that kind of thing, and I didn't. So they were rough, involved in gangs, fighting, that kind of stuff. Like they were in the difficulty of it with poverty. So when I come and I'm getting favoritized, they were not having it. They were not happy about it. So it caused a lot of frictions. Mainly my younger sister. We fought a lot. But, you know, I'm talking about Snickers bars, the small ones back in the day. We split in that 6 ways, you know. There's like, divide it. Everyone get like a little
It's a long way from your uncles.
Listen, my uncle gave me everything, man. Everything. I had the latest toys. I had the latest games. I had like food. I had, you know, money to go and spend. I could go on any trip. I would be in parties all the time. I would go on holidays. Coming to the UK was like nothing. Literally nothing. I didn't speak the language. I didn't understand anything. There was no food, barely any food.
Wow.
Because it's being split by so many. There's you know, we all sleeping in the floor, in the living room, you know, watching like those Bible movies at the end. At this point, I was still like kind of into that kind of, because I came from a Catholic church, so I was kind of still like, you know, like I still felt like I had something there. But then very quickly that began to turn, man. That year, I spent like, up until September, I didn't have no school, no nothing. My mom was still trying to find housing. Eventually, she got housing in one of the roughest estates, St. Raph's, Stonebridge Park. So I'm like, okay. Oh, well, I'm not like, I'm thinking now, like, I'm like, but like back then we moved. It was nice because it was a house, 3-bed house. It had a living room, it had a dining room, it had a kitchen, you know what I mean?
Raph's.
But it was St. Raph's. And yeah, like, and that was challenging because obviously, you know what's going on. They get like, the estate culture was there, you know, and I was very young. Like, so I'm talking about, I'm like 13 going into secondary school for the first time in the UK. Don't speak the language. I went into year 8. That was my first year in the UK. Year 8? Yeah. Adriel is on what year? What year?
She's 8 now. Year 8.
Year 8 and she's 13. So I would have gone into year 8.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm in year 8. Like first day I have a fight. First day of school. Just because like they gave me the wrong uniform. So they gave me trousers that had jack-ups. Like I'm looking like MJ on my first day, yeah. So one of the kids goes and like, put your trousers down, and I was like, I pushed him, and he came, and again, like, this is what I was talking about. The thing he came, and that was my first encounter with that, and we're fighting in my first day of school, and then like the circle comes, teachers are coming in, I step out of the circle because I don't want to be caught. I was like, it's my first day, and I like this is the type of stuff that was happening like right from the beginning of school, and the school I went to was Willesden High. So
right in the center of it.
It was like worst possible place my mom moved to, and I'm going into one of the worst schools, like, you know, around in that at that time.
This is your introduction to high school in
the UK, yeah. So that was mad. So like already the pent up anger that I already had from fighting all the time in Portugal, the racism, all that kind of stuff, I've got that now. Like it's starting to boil up even more. So I'm getting into fights just because I was. Like, just to give you an idea, like, I was that type of kid, like, because then they changed Willesden High to Capital City. I was the type of kid, I remember this vividly. I was in a human, I can't remember that class, human something class. Anyway, the teacher's there talking away. I'm just facing away because I can't understand what she's saying, half of what she's saying. I'm sitting there on the table. I'm actually by myself. It was round tables. And then on the opposite table, there was like a little Somalian kid and these Somalian friends. He was throwing like papers at different people. And I was boiling up already. I was sat there and I was thinking, if he throws that at me, like, he hasn't looked at me. He hasn't said anything to me. But I'm already planning. Like, I'm sat there just like, if he throws that at me, I'm going to bite this guy up. That's what I was thinking in my mind, in Portuguese, obviously, like, you know. And then I just feel in my head. I got up. I didn't say nothing. I literally just got up. I looked at him. He was like, you know, when they just threw it and they were trying to pretend it wasn't them kind of thing. Yeah. I just go up behind him and I went, whoop, bang. I saw them like the guy goes flying to the floor. The teacher's like, no. She steps in between. He's like, come, I'm gonna fight you up to school. I was like, what? I don't know, not what I'm saying. Whatever I'm saying in Portuguese. But I was like, because I was boiling. Like I was here, like to the limit. The teacher takes us outside. She's talking. I'm just like nodding, like I'm vexed inside. I'm looking at this guy. I'm like, I'm gonna knee you. Like that's what I'm gonna do. anyway, he says he wants to fight me after school. I understood that. I don't know why. That's the only thing I couldn't understand. I understood that he wanted to fight me after school. Came, after school finishes, we go to a toilet. There's bare kids there. We start fighting. I've got him on the grips. And then after that, so we fought, traded blows. We fought, they got separated after. Yeah. After that, we became good friends.
Wow.
It was actually one of my first friends.
You respected each other.
It was just we actually became we started playing football together, and he became we shook hands, and that's it. That we actually never fought again. Me and that kid never fought again. And but it was like that. That was the start.
Wow.
The other kid that pulled my trousers down, that was a different kid. I don't even know who that kid was. I can't lie. But then this kid was the first time I fought someone, and then we became friends. And then honestly, it was difficult dealing with school because I didn't speak the language. I was going to classes and I was sitting there not understanding anything. And then the way that they taught us English was they put us in a class with a teacher that didn't speak Portuguese or any of the languages. There's a bunch of foreigners and she's taking us through these lesson things. Somehow it worked. Don't ask me how, but it worked. I started speaking English. I made a decision not to have any Portuguese friends because I didn't want an accent. I didn't want to feel like I was different from the other kids. So I was I don't have any Portuguese friends. So I had no Portuguese friends in secondary school. But things started getting, a bit more difficult. Get a few friends that are now smoking weed, doing that kind of stuff. I didn't smoke or anything like that because I had tuberculosis when I was a kid. So I never even, the doctor told me if you smoke, so that, I don't know if he told me that just to scare me, but that stuck with me. So I never smoked because of that. And apparently I used to smoke, me and my sister used to smoke cigarettes under a car when we were tiny, but that's it. I don't know how that happened. We used to steal my mum's cigarettes and go smoke under a car. I don't know how that began.
Even after all that.
Yeah, but so I got involved with these guys. They smoke weed, they're dealing and that kind of stuff. The school, again, the violence was quite high. You're talking about people, you in the middle of resistant material classes, people are grabbing chisels and grabbing hammers and it's that kind of environment in the school. And then, but people are being expelled left, right, and center because it's now an academy. So they're getting rid of all the trash. But I'm starting to get connected with some of these guys and that kind of stuff. I'm not really doing well in school because I used to be a good student in Portugal. I was quite good at math and that kind of stuff. But here, initially I was quite good at math and the things I couldn't understand. But then very quickly, I just began to just lose it all, fall behind and that kind of stuff. Because I couldn't understand what they were saying. And it's just that increased, got into those fights between schools, inter-school fights. There was plenty because there was a boys' school just around the corner. There was Queen's Park around the corner as well.
Yeah.
So the fights between Queen's Park, I forgot that boys' school, Golders Green, there was loads of things just happening all the time. And I got involved in that and I was just I was starting to deteriorate. My anger was at a peak. I was frustrated all the time. You know what I mean? I didn't have anything I connected with. And then in the estate in St. Raf's, I'm now hanging out on the main.
With the crew.
I wasn't involved in anything yet because I was quite young at this point. I'm still 13, 14. But I'm now around that. The older guys are now there and that kind of stuff. My brother, he's found people now to hang out with as well. He's hanging out with some Portuguese, they used to call Portuguese mafia, but it wasn't a mafia, but that's what they call themselves. But gangs from East London and stuff like that. He was starting to hang out with them, making some mistakes and that kind of do you know what I mean? He was just starting to get a bit out of hand. Family problems. We had an uncle that was a deep drug addict kind of stuff. Once he came outside of our house, he wants to beat up my auntie because she's in my house.
Really?
My mum loses it. That's probably where I got it from. She fills up this bucket with bleach and all that. She made her own concoction of hot acid. That's what it was. Her and my older sister, they were ready to dash this on this guy, and we had to lock them in the toilets because they were like, let me go. Oh my days, you could hear the toilet go. I was this is serious. And the guy is there. I was you need to go, because he was going to get, his skin was going to go because anyway.
So how is this all shaping?
I was just
this stuff is real. Man, this is all a lot of trauma, a lot of stuff going on with you, and it's you're losing it and you're joining, friendships that are obviously leading you in a certain direction and all that stuff. How is that all shaping you at this moment? Have you ever looked back and sort of like thought, wow, it was all shaping me to be something else?
No, 100%. Like I think that where my mind was going, and the thing is, I kept my identity at home very different from how I was with people. Like my mom, they didn't know half of the things I did, and I didn't want them to know. But it was just like I was starting to. Again, I was very angry. People knew, like, I had a nickname which was OG. Back in the day, like they called me OG. But like people knew, like when it comes to play fighting, joking around, like just don't do it with Fillipe. Like, cause he's not. I would take it seriously. If it was a play fight, I would just switch it into like I want to fight for real. Like, and I didn't care if I was the strongest or not. I didn't care if I got beaten up. Like I had that kind of mindset. Like if you try something, I'm gonna fight you. Like whether I get beaten up or not, I don't care. Like, and I had that mindset, and I was that, it was just that I was at that point where, it wasn't helping the school fights and that kind of stuff. It just wasn't helping. Even down just like, this is odd, but like even down to like starting to mess with some of the girls that were older, like in the estate. I'm a 14-year-old boy and I'm talking to like some of these 16, 17-year-olds. Like, and I'm just getting, because I'm there all the time kind of thing. And it was just starting to get like that. And I didn't have anything out there. But then the mad thing is that I also had my other side to me. Like I had that side, but I had the other side that was still the same as Portugal, where I made some friends that I would just go and play football with. I would stay around sometimes after school and just play football with them. So I was someone that in school, I had various different friendship groups like that I could just go to. I had my go-tos, but I was friends with a lot of people. Like I talked to everyone. I was happy to like bring anyone in. People just bring people into the circle. I never wanted people to kind of like feel out of it. So I'd always have people around me. So I was friends with like, the Somalians, the Pakistanis. I was friends with the blacks, Jamaicans. I was friends with like all types of people. Like, and I kind of just had that. That was just me in general. Like I just had friendships because I was quite confident just talking to people once I finally started to learn the language. And once I started to learn again, I started to just form those friendships at groups again, being able to communicate with people. And yeah, like I made some friends, man. Like I wouldn't say good friends because I didn't keep a single one of them after I left because we had to leave there. I think things were getting bad. We had to leave St. Raf's. My mum finally moved to, I think they rehoused there in Harrow. So we moved.
Wow.
I was in year 10 and they moved us. Sorry, I was in year 9, finishing year 9, and they moved us to Harrow.
So you lost all those friends?
Yeah, all of it. So, and then I went into a school, Hatchin, which I went into year 10 and I'm having to start again. But very quickly again, like I made friends super quickly. And they understood the same thing, that I was a bit short-tempered. They understood that. I think I was trying to just go by quietly. I didn't want to kind of do anything major. But again, like, school fights started happening again. Copeland was coming all the way down from Wembley to fight us. I was like, there's a guy that one time had like a gun in his thing. Well, he said he had a gun in his thing. But a guy's coming down with chisels. I'm like, what's with kids and chisels at that time? There was no, knife crime wasn't a big thing. It was mainly just like batteries and stuff like that. People just beating up and whatnot, bringing whatever they could find in class. But, to be fair, in that school, it only happened a few times where I got into a scuffle, but I didn't have any major fights, which was different for me. And I think it was maybe because when I came there, I made it clear, like, I don't mess around. I'm not playing those kind of games. But I was a joker, and I'm a thing. But like, if you're talking about rushing, and like, I was like, listen, don't involve me in that, because I would get genuinely upset. And I remember the first time it happened. This is in year 10. We doing PE. This boy, like, we playing rounders, and I'm doing well. But then the girls on the PE class was sat there. So this boy, the popular boy, he was, felt a certain type of way. Wait until I catch you in the thing. I was like, shut up, man. Like, I was thinking he was messing around, innit? But I said, like, yeah, shut up, man. And he went. Anyway, I get to the changing rooms, and like, he grabs me from behind, and I just lose it. Like, I kind of like, I'm getting ready to now like swing. Because I was like, that's it. Because he grabbed me. I was like, okay, then we're about to fight. And then everyone steps in between. And I'm now like, I start getting angry and I'm like, wow, don't grab me. And I'm trying to argue, but I can't articulate. So I'm like, don't grab me. And he's like, shut up, man. Like, it was only joking. I was like, nah, don't grab me. And I was trying to make it clear. I was like, I don't do those jokes kind of thing. And I started crying at that point when the tears started flowing. I got so upset. And I was literally like, we had a teacher called Mr. Longman. And he just came and he was like, this is, because I was like, I don't care. Because I was actually good friends with that kid as well. But that for me was crossing the line. Like, I don't play fight. I don't like play fighting at all.
It's so interesting because it's like, I've worked with you.
Yeah.
And you were like the biggest joker of all times. Like, you would play fight from morning to evening. That's how
But that happened after. Do you know what I mean? Like, so like that, and this is now the mad thing. So like, because now I'm in secondary school, we year 11, and there's like a charity, Ignite at the time. They came and they done a dance thing. And this was when like You Got Served was about. And I saw that and I was like, yo, that's a bit interesting. Like I was like, street dance looked interesting to me. Like I just liked it. But I had this thing where I didn't really fit in any group. I'll go and beatbox here with the black guys rapping. Pardon me. I'll go and rap with the black guys rapping. And then I'll go and play football with like, the guys that can't speak English. And then I'll go like, so I was all over the place. I never had like a place that I was like in.
Central.
Yeah. So Ignite comes and I was like, yeah, you know what? Let me go and try this. So I went on a Thursday night. Like they had like a dance audition thing. I couldn't really dance. And I went there and there's loads of girls there. Like I'm feeling bare embarrassed. Like I'm embarrassed. They're teaching me a routine. I was trash. I was like absolute trash. I'm talking about like, they said no. They said, so because they said no, I was like, cool, it's not meant to be in it. But then like one day I'm coming home and I see Andre, which you've met.
Yeah.
Andre, like I knew Andre went to the dance ring because I saw him there, and I knew he lived around the corner because like I found out there's another guy that beatboxes, that lives around you. So like we had that kind of rivalry, like who's this guy? Like another beatboxer, like But then we quickly like found each other. We beatboxed together and we were like, yo, this guy's alright. And then we actually like started to kind of like approve of each other. So I see Andre, and he's talking to a guy, and I recognize the guy. It's a guy from the dance thing, which was Michael at the time, not Michael that but a guy that used to dance. And I'm going past him. I'm like, "You right?" I was like, I was really, I kind of just felt like I needed to say. I was like, listen, I was really nervous when I was trying to do that dance thing. Like I want. Is there something else I could try? I don't know why I said that. Normally I wouldn't, but like he said, come on the Monday. So I started going to this Monday thing, where they were doing dancing there. And I was like, yo, this is actually sick. So I started learning to dance with Michael. Michael was really passionate about it. But also something that drew me about Michael was that he was very different as a person. This guy was not angry at all. Like this guy was calm, patient. And I'm just looking at this guy and I'm like, he's a decent guy still. So they started inviting me to these church things and I'm like, I was like, listen, that God thing is not really for me. Like, because at this point, I'd already like just
gone clear.
I was like, my mom is talking about God, but I'm like, listen, do you like, I was like, yeah. But I'm going, and I'm like, I'm not interested at all, man. Like, almost like I had a vendetta because I was thinking, like, people, where's my dad? That was my main question around that time. It's like, where is my dad? People used to be like, my dad is getting on my nerves, and I used to think things like, at least you've got a dad kind of thing. Because I think growing up without, I didn't have a male figure in the house. My brother was doing his own thing. He's now doing bank scams. He's doing that kind of stuff. I'm trying to like peek into it and get involved with that kind of stuff. And it's just, I had no positive male role in the house. And so then seeing Michael being a positive male role, I kind of like got close with him and Andre, like, so they became my good friends. And as we became good friends, they started inviting me to cell groups and stuff like that. I was like, I was like, you know what, let me just try this thing. Went to a couple of cell groups. And then they took us to this thing, Soul Survivor. They invited us to Soul Survivor. I was like, listen, it's not for me. But then because of Michael, I was like, you know what, let me just try this thing and see what it is about. And I went to Soul Survivor for the first time. So this is whilst everything else is happening, but like I'm just pinpointing the areas. I went to Soul Survivor, which was like a Christian festival with loads of young people. I seen young people have fun, like, like they've got different events and that kind of stuff. And then there's preaching on a massive tent at the end. And I go into this thing, and at the end, like, there's I remember, like, I think there's a few nights. On one of the nights, the guy is doing his preaching thing. I'm listening, whatever, not really paying attention. And then at the end, like, some people started barking and, like, you know, like, kind of crying and stuff like that. Like, and, so one of the guys that was there, bro, this is real stuff. You know? One of the guys that was there, his name was Byron. Yeah, he runs out and he's like, "Yo, this is some devil." Beep, beep, beep. He's not swearing. Yeah. So I'm thinking the same thing. I'm like, yo, I was like, why are people barking? Like, I was like, I've never heard of this thing in my life. Yeah, so I was like, this is a bit mad. Anyway, things carry on. Like, I kind of ignore it. And then, like, you know, Dan at that time explained it. And, he, you know, which today, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, so he explained that kind of stuff. So we kind of went there back on one of the other nights. But he was preaching again. But then the guy, I think it was Mike Pilavachi, that was his name.
Mm-hmm.
He started, he was preaching something, but then he started, like, talking about me. Like, it was very specific. Like, I'm talking about, he's pinpointing things because he's doing like a nautical type of thing, but he's saying things. I felt like the guy was, like, just
staring into your soul.
But I'm looking around and I'm now starting to get vexed. Like, I was getting very angry because I was looking around and I was getting ready to fight someone because I was thinking, who told him about my life, kind of thing. But then there were certain things that he was saying that no one knew. And there's certain things I couldn't tell my friends because it would be seen as soft. Like things like I even had this conversation with my brother not last year, but how we were struggling with the fact that we had no dad around. Like I never told that to anyone. Like things like I was struggling with, like, my anger and just being like my feeling lonely and isolated, like you're the only. So I was struggling with all of these different things. And I never told anyone because I didn't feel like I could. I didn't have friends that I felt I could say these things to. And he's saying, listen, you know, I felt like man was shooting darts at my heart. He knew every. And then, but so the anger point reached, and then I was like, wait, no one knows. And then I started to just listen to the guy, and he said, you just need to pray, like, and accept Jesus. And he's telling me to accept Jesus. So this is now it's not my first encounter with the gospel being preached, because again, like, I was raised in the Catholic Church, confirmed, baptized, all that kind of stuff. But then I left that because that didn't mean anything to me. And now I'm here, the guy's saying this, the guys at Ignite have been telling me about God and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, yeah, cool, that's good, this works for you, it's cool. But now I'm here, I'm being confronted with this, and I'm like, I was like, how does he know? Like that's what was baffling. And then I said, you know what? I said, God, you know what? I'll pray. And if this thing is real, then it is what it is. And I prayed, yeah. And I think the reason why it resonated with me so much was because, like, I just broke into tears, bro. I hadn't cried for years. Like I've cried in anger. Like I had cried, like, you know, when you cry in anger, when tears are flowing and you're just angry. So that had happened, but I hadn't cried. I was sobbing, and I'm like, I go to the floor to hide my face because I was like, I don't want no one to see me like this. I was like, what is going on? I was trying to wipe it. I'm there trying to, like, wipe my tears and everything. Tears flow. I'm trying to hide it. Eventually, I'm able to stop crying. I get up. I'm like, cool. They send us to the front. They give us some stuff. Go through the whole soul survival thing. I now come back to, like, normal life. Back again. And it's just like, and some people, like, and I had a few different conversations, but, like, there's times where guys said, like, you're not the same. And I know what you're talking about. And I know you're just different, bro. Like, you're just like, something's changed. And I was like, you're talking nonsense. And I didn't understand what they were saying at that time because for me, like, nothing changed. I thought I prayed and that was it. That was the extent of what had happened. I was happy going to Ignite, dance, got involved with the cell group, started getting a bit more involved now because now I'm just trying to understand what it is. But they're saying you changed. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. But I didn't have any more fights. Like, it's like, so from then until, I can almost say, I'm pretty sure up until now, I haven't had a fight since then. Like, I've had arguments, don't get me wrong. I've had arguments and stuff like that, but I've not had a physical, like, fist fight since then. So you know, there was other things that were happening before then as well, like because you know what, with this stuff of other schools coming, like I remember that one of the funny stories is like we were running away because they called some orders, so I was sprinting, and I thought I was gonna get stabbed that day because we were sprinting away. I look back because I'm sprinting, I'm ahead of my friend. I look back, I see his face, and I just burst into laughter because I found his face so funny. His face was so full of pain. And then I start stitching up, and I'm thinking, "No, I'm gonna get stabbed." I look back; they were no longer there, so I just walked the rest of the way home laughing. But I was constantly in that kind of situations. We would go to like a party here and there, like we're running away from a gang or whatever. Like so, that kind of stuff was happening a lot, and you know, you're just getting involved with these kind of things. And now I come back from Soul Survivor, and I'm just, that's it.
Like from all that stuff.
Like I just literally had no
desire for it.
Like I kind of just really locked in with the dance thing. And then I still hang, like in school, I'll still be around because those guys were still my friends. But like even they were like, yo, like you don't hang around anymore. Like I wasn't chilling with them because we used to chill. Like I wasn't chilling with them because I was busy dancing or I was doing something else. So like they see, you know, they saying what they're saying, like, you know, you're not the same. And and I go through year 11. Nothing, like no major issues, nothing like that. Just friends with everyone kind of thing. I still had a few problems where things frustrated me and angered me, but like I wasn't lashing out. And that's when I started to realize, I was like, this thing, that, yo, something happened. Like what they're saying is actually true. Like I began to see it for myself. Like, because I started to think I'm not like always against the ropes. At home, it was still a bit different, you know? But from when that thing happened, it just, actually, just as another side note, like even just before Soul Survivor the first time, like my brother, you know, we used to fight and he used to, like, it was like I was fighting a stranger, like, this is not my brother, right? Anyway, so like, he'll be punching me up. And I remember once my mum separated us and I went downstairs, grabbed the kitchen knife, and I was ready to stab my brother. That kind of, none of that happened again. Like, times when I would cycle full of anger, like on the street, I can't see because there's tears flowing down my eye because I've just had a massive argument or I've just got into a fight with my brothers or my sister. I'm cycling, I can't see, almost getting run over, stopping in the middle of the road, that kind of thing. None of that is happening anymore. And I'm like, that's when I started putting two and two together.
Something changed.
Yeah, something changed.
Would you say, like, as in that tangible thing that you felt there, was it something that then anchored your faith? Do you think that's something that convinced you that this is real?
Yeah. Because it was when I saw that, and I couldn't argue with it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think it was, for me, it was because it was now I knew what had happened. I went to this festival, got saved. Yeah, because they had said these things to me. Oh, you got saved, this good. I was like, well, I got saved from what? Like, I didn't understand it fully, but like when I started to then think about the things that they were saying, going to the cell groups and these things were being explained, I understood what had happened. And I started to just want God. Like I wanted to serve God. I was like, me and Andre, we both like got serious around that same time. And we both were like, yo, we were reading scripture, sending stuff together, like reading books. We just started to want God, like from both of us. We got baptized pretty much like soon after, like a few months later, we got baptized. We were deeply involved with the dance. I'm now in the dance group and that kind of stuff. But then we thought, like, you know, because the charity thing was good, but we were like, we need a church. And one of the girls that started coming to Ignite, they had a church. And that was V2V. And that's when we connected to V2V. And like V2V, you know, first week I'm there, you know, I get convicted at the altar call. And I respond again, because I was like, I know I'm not living right. So I respond, and I start responding to these altar calls. Every week I'm repenting. I was like, I felt like a sinner every week. I was like, I need to get saved again. Like, but after a few weeks, it was like, I'm here, like I'm locked in, and it just, things just started to change. Like I didn't have time for everything else as much anymore, because now I'm like, I'm in Ignite, I'm dancing, I'm doing youth group stuff, I'm doing cell group stuff, I'm going to church, I'm doing youth group at church. I'm like, so I was just being involved as a kid. I was just like fully thrown into I was like, I want to know who this Jesus is. And then I started to read, understand, memorize scripture, and that kind of stuff. Like for myself, I wanted to do that. Me and Andre, we were both doing it. And honestly, like it really changed.
That's powerful. What would you say to a Fillipe? That's because me and you work with gangs.
Yeah.
So what would you say to a Fillipe, someone at your age or where you were, who is conflated right now, dealing with fatherlessness, dealing with that loneliness, dealing with just the anger that's built up.
Yeah.
Because of just a lack of role models, a lack of just, a father in the home and all that. What would you say to that Fillipe there? That person there who's in a situation like that right now?
I think the main thing for me was to know that people cared. And I think I was in a place where I was telling myself no one cared. And I isolated myself around that, and that only bred more frustration because I felt like I was alone. Like I felt isolated. My house is full, but I felt alone, like that kind of thing. So I would say, there are people that genuinely care. And if you would open up to someone who is genuine, they can be there with you, understanding the frustrations, understanding why you're angry, just being there to be a brother, just to be a brother to. Sometimes like Michael would come and just take me out somewhere. I would be frustrated about something and he would just come like, let's just go
real stuff,
grab a bite. Yeah, we'll go to Noodle City and we there in Noodle City. Sometimes we'll be all three of us, like those kind of things there. Like I think I always say Michael was pivotal because he was the person that allowed me to consider Christianity. Like I didn't consider Jesus before him, because I saw something different in him, and and even in the other guys at Ignite, but seeing that just really opened me up. So I think for someone like a young me, it's literally like open up, like, and just see if there's someone that would, like you're saying, you don't have a father, you don't have a role model. There's someone that will be that for you, but it begins with you allowing it to be, because it wasn't until I allowed Michael into my life kind of thing. Because I went to dance, and then just because we were from the jokes and the conversations, I began to allow him and to just tell him more. That's how the relationship then was built, and I think from there it really helped to grow. So,
do you say that for what you saw in Michael, was that the love of Christ that you saw then? That was
100%. I used to say like these guys are different. Not even just Michael, but even Dan at the time as well. Like and there were some other people like Rachel Gardner. Yeah, I looked at these people and I was like, yo, these people are just different, And at first, like with Dan and those guys, I thought it was because they were white. Yeah. And I was like, maybe it's white folk are just like that. But then like, it was something different. Like these guys would just had like it was just a different, I felt like they were a bit refreshing because it was different from the people I had in school. People tried to mentor me in school, like counseling, all that kind of stuff. Nothing worked, man. If anything, I got more violent. So it was definitely seeing something in him that was genuine, because I felt like he genuinely cared for me. Even though he was a youth worker, I genuinely feel like he actually cared. He would inconvenience himself, like for my sake, to come and meet me, to come and, take me and Andre to Noodle City, or just, like one-on-one, we'll go meet up. Whatever it was, like he was there, and because
shout out to Michael, man.
Big up Michael, man.
Yeah.
He was busting his moves at my wedding as well, like so like you remember. I don't know if you remember, but he was one of the guys that danced there.
Yeah.
So like I don't play down his impact. I think he is one of the crucial pillars of my life, like people in my life that were like a pillar in me making this decision, and because of that, I feel like everything changed. But then things completely changed after that. Like it was when I gave myself to it, like my whole life began to just change,
Wow.
So
fast forward now, you're a father, married to your beautiful Feiji.
Cheers.
And there's a lot going on. You're in ministry.
Yeah.
You're going for it. Tell us more. What's been happening?
Yeah, I mean, like I think all those years back, that initial fire was good. I felt very, really zealous, but then I kind of made a few mistakes along the way that kind of discouraged me. So, I was up and down with my faith. I had you guys then, helping me, building me up. I'd stay at home. I'm like, nah, I just want to play PlayStation. Bad faith. I feel feeling sick, But I think having you then coming into Ignite, just connecting with Cornerstone and stuff like that, those things began to start helping, like me just to like start to want it again. She was on it. I was like, and then when we came to the Midlands, it was just us, me and Feiji, that's it. So
big change.
Big change. And I knew we needed a church. Because I was like, we need to, because I was starting to have a better relationship with Pastor Talks and stuff like that. So that was helping me as well. So much so that when I told him, he said like, already felt like God had confirmed it with him, whatever. But like, because I had that relationship with him, I knew I needed to be in church, but we weren't in church for like months. I think it was months. We tried a church here. We went there. And we were like, nah, forget that. Went to another church. There's only old people. I was like, oh man, I'm not trying to do that. Went to another church. It was this. It was like I felt like, I don't know if we were just being picky, but we just felt uncomfortable, you know. And I was like, and maybe it was because we were holding on to the fact that we had relationships in Cornerstone and stuff like that. So we had people, and then we're now trying to go into a new place, and you felt
you're trying to look for the same thing.
Yeah, like things that we didn't agree in terms of scripture, like, and some of the stuff. Like, so we were like on and off for a few months, and then like when I finally locked into church, you know, I was trying to sell an alarm to my pastor. As I was telling you, I sold an alarm tried to sell an alarm, but then he hooked me in to come to church. But then that Sunday morning when we left, I said to Feji, "This is where we need to be." And I like, because we were silent in the car, you know, because we knew of this church before, and I just had my reservations. So when we went there, I was like, "We're not going. I'm just going to show face because I want to sell the alarm," kind of thing. But when we left, we were quiet in the car for, listen, half of the journey, like there's nothing being said. And I was like, I feel like this is where, you know, because he preached something that, like, I felt like, you know, this is God is speaking here. And I was like, yeah, this is where we need to be. And over the years, like, I feel like God has confirmed that for me. But over the years, like, there's many times I left church vexed. You know, the vex me came back. But now it's more because I'm being convicted, man. I was like, there's certain things that were just being addressed in me, in my character, that was difficult to kind of let go of and that kind of stuff. And then as that was happening, that went on for months. And then like after a year or so of being in church, I finally said, you know what, like I'm going to get involved with ministry and see what it is about. So we got involved in the ministry there. Initially I was just helping out with the sound, you know, sound technician and stuff like that. Feji was doing like a nursery, teas and coffees and that kind of thing. But as we were doing that, like I started to just, you know, just serve people, learn. And as I'm serving people, I'm building relationships. There's a lot of fellowships happening all the time. People are coming over, we going over. That kind of environment is what's happening. That was causing something in me to kind of just stir, you know, and I was trying to figure it out, like, and understand it. I then took over the sound ministry and became like a leader in the sound ministry, just leading anything sound related, tech related. Even today, like, you know, that's what I do. Yeah, that's so I kind of just took it on, and I think from that, like, I felt like just from building relationships and seeking God, like I think the main thing was understanding where I stood with God, like my relationship with Him, because I needed it to be personal. Because I think even in that whole ministry thing, there was times where I started to feel drained, and I think the reason was because I wasn't fully connected, and I was feeling drained, and I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to, like, people getting on my nerves and that kind of stuff. But then just as I began to just actually try to understand that for myself, my relationship with God, I think it's helped me to navigate ministry, the challenges of it, and then, you know, Pastor just get, you know, he says, like, how about this ministry? Like, move from this ministry. So now I'm actually not I'm technically not meant to be leading sound. I had someone leading it. I appointed someone over it, so I didn't have to do it anymore. And then I went to do something else. I was doing youth work again, like in the church.
Were you? Okay.
Yeah, so working with the youth. And then I stepped down from youth to allow someone else, someone else to come through. And then, you know, Pastor kind of put me as head usher, so I was head ushering for a bit. I enjoyed that. I actually enjoyed, you know, grabbing people, just go sit down. No, I'm joking. But like, I enjoyed that kind of thing, just greeting people at the door. Like, I felt like I was having so many conversations with people at the door. So I actually really enjoyed that period of time. And then, like, you know, I kind of said to, you know, I had a period of time which I was mentioning to you, where I sat down and I said I need a bit of a break just to reset, restart myself, like making sure I'm grounded in God. So I feel like I lost some of the foundations that I had built over the years, just because I was busy, just because I like some disappointments and some of the things that was happening with us, you know, some of the challenges of life that we were having, like, so because of all of that, I had to stop. But then, like, you know, a few months later, you know, after resetting and restarting, having the conversation again, Pastor was like, you know, like, you want to get back into ministry? I was like, yeah, everything but praise and worship, please. That's what I said. And he's like, yeah, I hear you. Next week, he's like, listen, I understand that you know, but listen, sometimes God just wants to stretch you.
And then now you're leading.
Yeah, now I'm leading praise and worship. So, but it's different, man. Like praise and worship is teaching me, like, I think it's teaching me actually, like, you know, when we engage in like this spiritual thing, it's important to just be prepared, like, you know, in our hearts, in our minds, you know, go with praise, because like actually when you put praise at the front of these things, when you're praising God, regardless of the situation, I feel like it positions you to then engage, you know, and I think that's helpful to understand. Yeah. It prepares it as well, like, you know,
towards receiving from God.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you've had such an elaborate kind of like life, and it just there's a lot going on there, isn't it?
Yeah.
And as the journey has been sort of like in different shapes and forms, and it's come to you. What are some of the scriptures that have kept you going? Because your journey, if I look at you now, it sounds like you're like 70 years old because of your experience.
Man, it's been banged up, man.
You've had so many fights. Do you know what I mean? Kind of thing, and all these things. So now you are obviously in the faith now, saved, and you know your family. And what has kept you going? What kind of scriptures do you turn to when you're in times when sometimes it just feels you know?
I think there's one in particular that has kept me from beginning to now. Like, and I think it's probably because there's many scriptures that I think relate to me at different points in time, but the one that's kept me is Romans 8:28 to 39. Like the whole thing where it talks about that we know that all things work together for good, for those who love God, for those who are called according to his purpose. You know, like, and then he's talking about God who did not spare his own son, but delivered him up for us all. How will he not freely also give us all things? And then saying, you know, what's going to separate us from the love of God? Peril, sword, nakedness, famine, all that kind of stuff. And it's addressing, and I feel like it's just, but then it says like, I think how it then goes and ends has been that the highlight for me. It says, for I am fully persuaded. That's what it starts, I think, at verse 37 or 38. It says, for I am fully persuaded that nor death, nor life, nor height, nor depth, shall separate us from the love of God, which is in Christ Jesus.
Amen.
And I think that has kept me, because like every time I'm going through a season, I feel like there's so much covered in that specific scripture, from being down and being let down, from suffering, from being in victory, from believing God for blessing, all that kind of stuff is all encompassing that. And that scripture there is just like, it's really like, I always say to Freddy, this is like, it was the first scripture I memorized, and it's the one I've kept like guarded, like really in my heart.
Wow.
And then there's other things like, and then when I'm like over the years, I've been thinking about discipline and stuff like that. And it talks about, you know, a man who doesn't guard his heart is like a city without walls, you know, like this, or not having discipline, and like just those things there has helped me to just kind of, okay, I need to
set certain things in place.
So honestly, there's so much, man, and I think scriptures and then sometimes sermons that I've heard that have helped me just to process life. And I think one of the things that currently studying Psalms 107, you know, just a deep dive into Psalms 107 because it covers so much. And one of the things that I was covering recently when it's talking about going into the deep, you know, that's where they done business, and you know, that's where we do business with God, is in the deep waters, is in the difficult, in the uncomfortable, where we don't see, you know, in the deep I don't have landmarks, I don't have what do you call it? I don't have reference points, so it's not familiar ground. But that's where I'm fully dependent on God, and I think that's one of the things I'm currently experiencing. Is I'm in a place where I'm just like, God, you know what? I don't know how, but I'm trusting. You know what I mean? Because when you come to the end of yourself and your understanding, you encounter like a level of God for me that has just changed a lot of things for me and just helped me to just navigate. So, but it's that's the main ones I can think of.
Wow,
that have helped.
Lastly, just share something with the fathers. You know, you had an absent father, you know, which is obviously took you to so many different places and emotionally, spiritually, and also different things. What would you say now that you're a father to someone who's there now, who's obviously a father as well, went through the same sort of like situation that you went through? You didn't see your father, you didn't feel that connection. What would you say? How do you learn to father someone You've never had a father yourself.
Yeah, you know what? The realness of this is that you will make bare mistakes along the way. And in honesty, I'm still trying to figure this out. Like, because I think there's times I'm there and I feel like I'm a trash dad. Like, and that's just the truth. Like, and because I want to do more for him, but sometimes I don't know how, or maybe it's just not inbuilt in me to do it. Like the way that, you know, like Francisco, like he loves like touch and stuff like that. You know, like whole thing about hugging. Like kids want that kind of. So I had to learn to just.
To be vulnerable like that.
Yeah, and then like it's like, why do you want so many hugs, man? Like hug all the time. Like, I was
soft.
But I've started to, you know, someone said something to me and he said like, you know, never deny your child a hug. Like they said that something like that, and I was like, yeah, come on, man, you're not being serious. But I've taken it on, like, and I don't say that like I would always. Sometimes I'm like, come on, you now just trying to stop yourself from going bed. But like, if he genuinely says something like, or if he comes for a cuddle, I'm happy to just embracing that and engaging that with him, because I'm realizing there's things I'm learning along the way that I don't understand, and but I do feel incompetent half of the time. But then I do have a wife that encourages me and says, "You're doing a good job," and I think I just have to believe what she says. And the most important thing is me being there for him, you know. I don't have to be super interested in everything he does. I don't have to do everything he does. But if he knows that I love him, that's the main thing. And I
perfect.
Yeah, that's it. So, and I know he knows that I love him. You know, so yeah. But that's the challenging. Yeah, it's challenging.
Yeah, it's a day to day. It's a journey.
Kids is difficult.
But that's honestly the blessing of being in Christ.
Yeah.
Bro, so what is there any projects that we should look out for that you're doing or anything? If there's anything, nothing, then that's fine.
Trying to think. No, nothing yet at the moment. Like we're considering like just recording some music and stuff like that. So we might record some music because we do quite a lot of music around, but nothing yet. Sorry.
And if that happens, come back again on the show.
We'll give you a shout out. That's it. Thank you very much, my man.
Juka,
I appreciate it.
Thank you, my man.
Blessings.
Thank you so much, man. And hopefully next time when you do your album, you're back here again.
Come on.
Hey, my man.
Bless.
God bless, man.
See you guys later.
Thanks.